Welcome back to Poorly Educated Today in the News, where the world is wobbling like a card table at a church fish fry, gas costs too much, and the robots are somehow having the best week. Segment 1. Hormuz turns the oil faucet into a hostage situation. The biggest mess today is the Strait of Hormuz, which has become the world's most expensive bottleneck. Except the bottle is full of crude oil and the neck is being guarded by angry men with missiles. After the US and Israel wrapped the big combat phase of Operation Epic Fury, the war did not end so much as move from the sky to the shipping lane. Iran is squeezing traffic through the strait, threatening tankers, picking favorites, and making maritime insurers age like bananas in a hot truck. An Indian livestock vessel sank near Oman after a suspected strike, and another ship was seized near Fujairah, which was supposed to be the safer bypass spot. That is the scary part, because once even the detours start looking dangerous, the whole map starts sweating. And regular people do not experience that as a map problem. They experience it as the gas pump eating a paycheck one beep at a time. Iran wants sanctions lifted, frozen assets returned, reparations, and recognition over the strait, which is a wish list so large it needs its own tow hitch. The US says absolutely not. Iran says enjoy the toll booth from hell. And everybody else is stuck in the middle like the cousin who came to the cookout for baked beans and got handed a family lawsuit. India is trying to keep ships moving while Iran wants BRICS to condemn America and Israel. And suddenly, that anti-Western club sounds like 5 men arguing over who forgot the generator. So the first crisis is simple but ugly. When one narrow waterway moves that much oil, one bad week can make the whole planet pay cover charge. Segment 2. Trump and Xi gamble with Taiwan, oil, and everyone's blood pressure. Naturally, while oil is acting possessed, President Donald Trump is in Beijing meeting President Xi Jinping, because nothing calms the room like 2 superpowers playing poker with everyone else's nerves. The US wants China to pressure Iran to reopen the strait, since China buys a whole lot of Iranian oil and has more leverage in Tehran than most diplomats with matching luggage. China knows that, which means Beijing is not showing up like a helpful neighbor with jumper cables. It is showing up like a man who knows your truck is dead, your freezer is full of meat, and your credit card already whimpered once this morning. So the summit may wear a polite little trade talk jacket, but underneath it is oil, tariffs, chips, Taiwan, and great power suspicion wrestling in a ditch. Then Xi warns that Taiwan is the most important issue in US-China relations, which is diplomatic language for do not touch the hot stove unless you packed marshmallows for the fire. Trump has talked about discussing Taiwan arms sales with Xi, and that makes allies in the Pacific nervous for a reason. If Taiwan's defense becomes a bargaining chip beside oil routes and trade concessions, Japan and the Philippines start wondering whether American security promises come with surge pricing. That is not fancy think tank panic. Deterrence only works when people believe the promise is not for sale. Meanwhile, the US delegation is reportedly using clean phones and temporary laptops in Beijing, because nothing says friendship like leaving your real phone at home, so your host cannot digitally pickpocket your pants. Segment 3. Gas prices punch wages while Wall Street hugs a robot. Back home, the oil crisis has marched straight into American wallets wearing steel-toed boots. Gas is high, inflation is climbing again, and real wages are getting chewed down like a porch rail under a nervous beaver. $4.50 gasoline is not just a number on a sign. It is the difference between buying groceries like a grown adult and standing in the aisle wondering if crackers, regret, and store-brand mustard count as dinner. The Federal Reserve, now under Kevin Warsh, has the kind of problem that makes economists stare into the middle distance. Higher interest rates do not drill oil, reopen Hormuz, or calm a sweating tanker captain. But while regular folks are getting body slammed by the pump, Wall Street is throwing confetti because artificial intelligence keeps making investors see dollar signs. The Dow is pushing toward giant milestones. The S&P and NASDAQ are hitting records. And AI infrastructure companies are getting treated like they found gold in Grandpa's sock drawer. Cisco jumps. Cerebras raises billions. And the market starts looking less like an economy and more like a robot revival tent, where every preacher owns stock options. The grounded truth is the economy has split like an old tractor tire, with one side paying more for gas and groceries, while the other side bets data centers will fix everything. And that leads to the question the AI party keeps dodging like a possum near headlights. Where exactly are we plugging all this magic in? Segment 4, Utah gets a data center with a drinking problem. That brings us to Utah, where the Stratos AI data center project is teaching everybody that artificial intelligence may live in the cloud. But the cloud still needs land, water, turbines, pipelines, fans, and a permission slip the size of a barn door. The project could cover more than 40,000 acres, which is not a data center anymore. That is a county wearing a server costume. It could demand more power than the whole state currently uses, and billions of gallons of water a year near a region already worried about the Great Salt Lake turning into a toxic dust machine. Local residents are fired up, and honestly, you can understand why. When somebody says national security and then asks for your water table, your electric grid, and your nighttime temperature, it starts sounding less like innovation and more like a land grab with Wi-Fi. The pitch is that America needs giant domestic compute capacity to beat China in the AI race, and there is a real argument hiding inside that sales brochure. But there is also basic barn logic. If your prize bull eats more than the farm can grow, maybe the farmer is not backward. Maybe the bull is too dang big. Data centers are not invisible magic boxes. They are industrial machines with a heat signature, a water appetite, and an electric bill that could make a coal plant ask for emotional support. So while Wall Street cheers AI like a golden goose, Utah is where somebody has to clean the pen and explain why the lake is coughing dust into the suburbs. Segment 5. Congress finds the war receipt under the couch. And while all that is happening, Congress is finally looking at the Iran conflict and asking a very old-fashioned question. Did anybody authorize this, or did we just put a war on autopay? The Constitution gives Congress the power to declare war, and the war powers clock has been ticking like a bomb under a folding table. The administration says the major combat phase is over, which sounds tidy until you remember ships are still being seized, troops are still deployed, and the Gulf looks about as peaceful as a Waffle House parking lot at midnight. Senator Jeff Merkley's War Powers resolution failed by 1 vote, but that vote still showed cracks. When Rand Paul, Susan Collins, and Lisa Murkowski break with the White House while John Fetterman crosses the other way, that is not a clean mandate. That is a political transmission slipping while the engine smokes. And because Washington cannot have just one constitutional argument at a time, lawmakers are also tangled up over FISA surveillance powers, while the Justice Department fights the D.C. bar over Trump-era lawyer discipline. It stacks into one big picture. Overseas war pressures fuel prices hammer wages, wages poison politics, politics cracks Congress, and Congress suddenly remembers Article 1 was not decorative. The grounded point is not complicated. You cannot treat war, surveillance, energy, AI, trade, and diplomacy like separate junk drawers when all the wires are connected behind the wall. At some point, the bill comes due, and right now, America is standing at the counter, patting every pocket, while the cashier says, "Sir, your democracy card has been declined." In conclusion, today's chaos is what happens when the world runs on narrow waterways, expensive fuel, fragile alliances, hungry computers, and leaders who keep acting surprised that choices have consequences. Hormuz is squeezing the gas pump, Beijing is squeezing Washington, Wall Street is squeezing reality, Utah is squeezing water, and Congress is squeezing its eyes shut, hoping the Constitution stops making noise. It is all connected like a Christmas light string you pulled out of the attic, except every bulb is blinking red and one smells like diesel.